All right, good morning, everyone. Today is day 48 of 52 of the Rankin Technical College online AWD 1100 C# programming class for the summer 2023 semester. This is Jeff Scott. I am taping. All right. Today, as it says in the email I sent out earlier today, I will be creating a fairly simplistic, all right, LINQ demo program, which when I get done with it, I'll save it out as a GitHub repo. I'll also discuss how LINQ should really be brought into your final project. All right. As a note there, and I said it right here, I will be creating a new video this weekend where I show my updated final project. All right. I'll be working on it today as soon as we get done with class. I had to make some changes. I'll explain why in just a little bit. And that URL, as soon as I get it done with the video, I'll produce it and send the URL out to you literally as soon as I get it done. All right. Okay. And as it says right there, the plan for next week, all right, the plan for next week is to have it be lab for the entire week so that you can complete any late work you might have, your final project, and your electronic portfolio. Again, as it says right here, please remember to look inside Rankin at your current grade report. If there's something that you think you've turned in that I have not graded, I don't care what it is. All right, let me know. Email me right away. Let me know what the assignment, whatever it is, lab, written test, whatever, let me know what it is, and let me know the repo in which I can find it. Now, with some of you, that's really not necessary because you only have one repository. Some of the rest of you have multiple repositories. Finally, again, if you have any missing or late work, I'll accept it through midnight next Wednesday. All right. After that, it just goes into the book as a 0. And basically, that's the way it's going to be. All right. Finally, again, your final project and your e-portfolio are both due by midnight next Wednesday, the 16th. All right. And of course, I screwed up again because that should be 16, but that's okay. All right. Now, there's 350 points still outstanding. 200 for the final project, 150, 200 for the final project, 150 for the electronic portfolio. That's 3.5 tests. So if you can just bang these out and do really well on them, especially those of you who might be a little low in the grade department, that'll probably help pull you up. All right. You will know by a week from tomorrow, by noon on Friday, I will have all grades put into the system. I don't know how that works as far as getting that information to you. I have absolutely no idea. All right. But I will have grades submitted by noon next Friday. That's my plan. Technically, I guess I don't have to have them in until that following Monday, I found out, but I'm going away next weekend. All right. And now no one's asked, but I just wanted to tell you too, it's hopefully it's going to come out really well. My daughter went in to see her doctor yesterday, and they say that she's still not, even though she was due on Wednesday, she's still not ready. And if she does not have the baby either today, tomorrow, or this weekend, they will induce her on Monday. So one of the reasons that Monday next week will be a lab is, I've got another grandchild I've got to help watch if my daughter goes into labor, etc. Okay, so just so you know what's going on. All right, so with all that, again, today I'm going to be creating a LINQ demo program. It ain't perfect, all right, but I want to show you what it's going to look like. So I've got the kind of the end result, so to speak, right here. It's not real long. The actual code in here is about 225 lines, and there's going to be a couple classes too. All right, but let me run it. It's not a thing of beauty at all. But when you start running it, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people right now in the database. It comes up, it shows their names, the department in which they work, and what their salary is. I made up all those numbers, so don't worry about it. All right. Now, what I can do as an example is if I click the show all employees, it's going to show me everybody. Okay. Pretty much what I just showed you. But if I say show salaries greater than min, and let's say that I put in here, for example, let's say $60,000, and I say show salaries greater than min, now you'll notice I only get the people who have a salary that's greater than $60,000, and it lists them in descending order based on the salary. So those two things work. And then the rest of the stuff that's in here. So here's for adding a new employee. Okay. So let's add John Doe. And we'll say that he works in accounting. We'll just put ACCT. How's that? And he makes $50,000 a year. Now, when I click this, I should get a message. That the employee has been added. This should clear out. This should then basically redraw with all employees on it, including John Smith, or John Doe rather, if I did it right. So let's see. So employee record added. Okay, and there's John Doe. Works in department accounting with a salary of $50,000. So that all appears to work. All right. So I now have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 employees. You'll notice on here, I was working with this before, and when I delete an employee, he's not employee 7, he's employee 10. So I want to delete John Doe. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to click delete existing employee. And I don't know why I've got this and here, but I do. And it says, do you really want to delete employee John Doe? If I click no, he's not deleted. If I do come in and click yes, says customer John Doe deleted, and now he's gone. The only one I'm having a bit of problems with right now is getting this one to save. So if I come back in here, I'm number 1. So if I come in here, whoa, yeah, this isn't being redrawn. That might be part of the problem. Okay, but I'll have to redraw that. So here's number 1. There's everybody. But if I come in there and change that from Jeff to Jeffrey, and I click update existing employee, it's basically, it's not grabbing it. It thinks it's null. So it's not doing anything. I'll have to look at that. I'm going to put out there, I'm going to rebuild this, and I'm going to put this out there in the way I think it should be. All right, so I'm going to draw something that's going to look similar in nature to this. All right. Okay, so let me stop this. Let me save this. If I have any problems with the one I'm about to create for you right now, if I have any problems, I'll take the one I've already done that's called LINQ and save that one out there. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to come out here and I am going to create a new folder right here that's going to be called LINQ Demo, LINQ-DEMO. All right, now, please watch this. Please watch the next 5 or so minutes. If you don't do it the way I'm about to show you, you're going to run into nothing but trouble when you're working on your program. So I'm going to start up another session of Visual Studio. I'm going to create a new project, but this is going to be different. Do not repeat. Do not repeat. Do not choose Windows Forms app.NET Framework. Rather, choose Windows Forms app. The reason for that is the .NET Framework that we're using doesn't support all of the database actions we need to perform. I want to say that again. When you come in to create a new project, so when you're doing your final project, do not create it as a Windows Forms app .NET framework. Rather, create it as a Windows Forms app. Guess what? The one I showed you yesterday, I created as a Windows Forms app .NET framework. So I'm going to have to redo it. I can probably copy over a lot of the code, but I'm going to have to redo it over the weekend. All right. Okay. So Windows Forms app. Okay. And I'm just going to call it what it is. I'll just call it demo. All right. So this is a demo app. So I'll call the project name demo app. Okay. And I'll call the solution name demo solution. You can give them the same name. It really doesn't matter. All right. I'm going to click up here and I'm going to set my default folder to LINQ demo, which I've just created. So again, what I have in here, it looks different from the way I usually do it. Usually it's got a thing in here that says, what .NET framework do you want to use? That's not shown now until the next screen that comes up. So I've got demo app. I'm saving it into my desktop LINQ demo. And this is called here demo solution. And now I'm going to click next. And then I would strongly suggest, because now you've got Core 3.1, .NET Core 3.1, and it says out of support, .NET 6.0, and it says long-term support, and .NET 7.0 standard term support. Well, I chose 7.0. I wish you would do the same. And then click create. It's going to look the same when you bring this up. It's going to look just like it has looked. I will tell you right now that when you work with this, for lack of better words, when you work with this, it's a little quirky. You'll notice, first of all, it's taking more time to bring up just a simple form on the screen. There it is. All right. I had to, when mine came up, there were no tools in here. So I had to go and right mouse click on the toolbox. And basically there was a thing in there that resets, and that brought it back. Also, occasionally when I saved and got out, it locked up. I mean, weird things have been happening in here that have not happened previously. All right, so let me come in. I've been starting to get a new size in here, and I'm going to try using it here, see if this will work. And I've been making my form basically about 1250 by about 850. All right. Now you'll notice that it takes up quite a bit of space on the screen here. Can't even see all of it here. That's okay. All right. Again, this is how I'm doing it. In fact, looking at this, I got even some more room here. So instead of 850, I'm going to try and see if it'll give me 900. Well, I thought maybe I got the wrong one. So let's make this 1300. There we go. Okay, so about 1300, and we'll make this about 875. All right, so I can now see everything, just about everything that I've got on here. Okay, let's make it even a little smaller, about 850. All right, now I can virtually see everything. Okay, so now one of the students, Rebecca, was good enough to point out to me that when I come in here and try to do a rename, that it hasn't always worked. And she said, hey, I think I know what the problem is. Before you do a rename, you must do a save. So I'm going to do a save all here to save what I have so far. Then I'm going to right mouse click on my form, rename it, and put in FRM LINQ demo. All right, do I want to save it? Yes, and it looks like everything's fine. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to put in here for LINQ demo. That's it. All right, and I'll change the color as well. Now, in the one I've done, I used yellow, so let's make it a different color here. We'll use the turquoise here. Okay, so that's what we have so far. The next thing that I am going to do in here, is to, for lack of better words, kind of build the GUI. All right. I just think it'll be faster doing it that way. But please, please, please remember. So I'm only going to have one form on here. But if I had another one and I right mouse clicked on here and I chose add and new project, please make sure you choose Windows Forms app and not Windows Forms app.net framework. All right. Now, what we're going to do in here is we're going to work with LINQ. All right. Our book talks about LINQ. There's a chapter on LINQ, but you may find that you need other resources in order to be able to use LINQ as opposed to just what's in the book. Now, I'm going to show you something. If you don't care, cool, no problem. If you don't care. But I'm going to go out here. I probably have taken over my college lifetime, I'm going to guess, about 500 online courses. Some of them have been as short as 2 or 3 hours. Some of them have been as long as 30 or 40 hours. All right, it just depends. But what I'm going to do in here is show you a site that I oftentimes go to, all right, when I want to look up something, and it's called udemy.com. Udemy or Udemy is the way I pronounce it. I've heard it pronounced both ways. All right. So when it comes up, it looks just like it's shown on the screen, but I'm going to bring this up in a bigger font so that you can see it. You don't need all that stuff. So let me just make this 72 size and so you can look at it. So there it is, just udemy.com. All right. Now, believe me, I get nothing for you taking Udemy courses. I am not at all associated with them. All right. But I have probably right here on my computer right now, I'll bet you I have 500 courses out there by them. Some of which I've taken, some of which I partially taken, some of which I have got out there, but I haven't even looked at yet. All right. So just so you know on here, you do have to sign up for an account. It's free. All right. Do I get emails from them? No more than one time a month, but that's only to tell me that they're having a sale on their courses. That's the only kind of emails I get from them. All right. Well, why am I showing you this? Well, if I came in here and put in, for example, whoops, let me cancel that. So if I came in here and I searched for LINQ, LINQ. In fact, let's do it like this. C# LINQ. All right. You'll notice it comes up with a bunch of stuff. And I'm going to hit enter. Now, some of these you're going to look at and go, wait a minute, Jeff, I don't have $84.99. I don't have $99 or $100, etc. I get it. All right. Usually what they do about every other month is they take all their courses and they make them $10.99, $11.99, or $9.99. But you don't even have to do that. All right. So notice it gave me 6,114 classes. All right. So I'm going to go down to a sort by and notice I can go most relevant, most reviewed, highest rated, newest. That's all fine. But now I'm going to click the filter. All right. And I guess it was already clicked. But down here, I'm going to go down and it says show more. And it shows the language that most of these are in. I don't know why I can't find what I'm looking for, but we're going to find it. There it is. Price. So notice that there's almost 5,350 courses that you have to pay for and about 700 that are free. Out of these 700 that are free, many of them don't talk about LINQ at all, but I'm going to click the free button. Now what you'll notice in here, C# LINQ Basics, Learning LINQ Essentials with C#.net, free. And you can see how I've enrolled in that class. Basics of LINQ with C#. This is the one I watched and I thought it was pretty good. You'll notice a lot of these other ones are just on C#. They're not going to be, some of them will have LINQ, some of them will not. All right. But I would suggest going through either one or both of these. All right. Now you'll notice, try that. There we go. So the one is 1 hour long. All right. You can preview it. That's a person who I think probably English is not their first language. All right. That's still fine. You can understand it and everything. So I'm going to go to the second one. Again, 1.5 hours, 14 lectures. Go to course. You sign up for free. You don't need to give them a credit card or anything. And you can see in here, I haven't looked at much. There, I just watched the introduction. What is LINQ and how to use it? What IEnumerable is? The basic LINQ query syntax. Notice examples. Basic LINQ method syntax. And again, there'll be examples. Grouping with LINQ, joining with LINQ, filtering. This is more than we are going through in our class. But if you wanted to get a better understanding of the use of LINQ, that might help you. All right. Again, if you say, nah, hell with it, then don't. You know, as you probably know, you can always go out on YouTube. All right. And you can come out here and put in C# LINQ. And you're going to get lots of hits. For instance, here's an advanced C# LINQ tutorial from Free Code Camp. I'm sure it's great. It's also 3 hours and 7 minutes long. All right. Some of these are going to be quite old. That doesn't mean they're not still relevant. Here's one with 41 videos in it. Here's one from Microsoft. All right. More from Microsoft. All right. I don't think that one is. There's 2 hours. C# Fritz, I guess. But you're going to find tons of them out here. All right. So it's just what you decide or don't decide to do. All right. So let's go back. And on here, I want to come in and start by, I'm going to change this around from the way I usually do it. What do I mean? I'm going to make my background dark. Like that. Now I'm going to put in 4 group boxes. I want to basically come in and break my window here down into about quarters. All right. And these I'm going to make lighter. So there's 1. Here is the second one. Here is the third one. You can see it all. It reaches basically almost down to the bottom. All right. And here's the fourth one. You don't have to do it like this. I didn't do mine originally like this, but this is going to be some standard LINQ stuff, including select statements. This is going to be add. This is going to be delete. And this is going to be modify. So basically I'm breaking it down so you're going to be able to see the CRUD operations that we're going to be doing. All right, I'm not going to worry in here. In fact, I'm going to move this up to the top and this. I'm not going to worry about being pretty here. I'm not going to worry about putting in menus, etc. I just want to build this, and ideally, at least, ideally, it's going to make some sense to you. We'll see. All right. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to build the interface. This will probably take me a good 15 minutes to do because I want to make sure that I set it up. I want to make sure, etc., that everything is done the way I want it to be done. All right. I could have created this as four different forms. That would have been fine. There would have been no problem at all doing that. All right. But I decided not to do it that way. All right. And again, if you ask me, why did you do what you did? Why'd you do it this way? Because I did. I mean, I can't give you always a good reason why I do what I do. This is just the way I decided to do it, period. All right, so I'm going to have 4 group boxes. All right. And this first group box is just going to be, I'll call it, basic select, basic CRUD. How about that? So I'm going to call this GB for group box, GB basic CRUD select. Okay, it didn't like something, so let's fix it. GB basic CRUD select. Took it there. All right. And that's the name of the group box. And I'm going to put the same thing in for the text. All right. So the text is going to say basic CRUD select, although I'm going to put it into 3 words. So there's that basic CRUD select. I'm going to keep that small. This one is going to say I'm going to be working with an employee database that we're going to create. I'm going to say that again. I'm going to be working with an employee database we're going to create in here. All right. This is going to be add new employee. So this will be GB for group box, add new employee. And again, I'm going to grab all of the stuff that you see in here, and that's what I'm going to name this as well. So it'll be called, for the text, I should say, add new employee. All right, so I've got those done. This will be delete existing employee. So this will be GB delete existing employee. All right. And for the text, again, it will say delete existing employee. All right. So for some reason it didn't take that. Oh, thought that I put it in there. Okay. Group box, delete existing employee. It's not taking that name. Still calling it group box 3. So took that one. Took that one. There we go. Took that one. All right. And this last one is going to be GB modify existing employee. Okay. And again, we'll put the same text as we've got in there for the name, except I will separate it so each word is in there and you can read that. All right. So right now, not a lot. I'm not going to lock my interface until it's all built. All right. I'll say that again. I will lock my interface once the whole interface is built. All right. And you didn't have to use text boxes or group boxes. I just think it makes it easier as I've got everything broken up. So I'm going to come in here and start by creating first a label. I'm going to put it in there. And now I'm going to make everything that goes in here the darker color. All right. I am going to auto size this label and make it pretty big. And underneath that, I'm going to put in another label. Again, you can see right now, I just did a copy here and it didn't take, plus it just sat there and whirled around. I do not like using the Windows Forms app. I much prefer the Windows Forms app.NET framework, but I think that doing it that way, all right, I think that doing it that way would just be a waste, for lack of better words. All right, so this is going to go underneath it, and it's going to be pretty big. This is going to hold a title, all right, that we will set programmatically. This is going to hold all of our employees, all right? Then underneath that, I'm going to make two buttons. Now these buttons, they're going to be probably a little bit bigger than we normally make them, like that. And I'm going to put another one underneath. Now I'm going to move this way the hay up and this so they're not hitting. And I'll move that up a little bit as well. Try this again. Move this up so I can move this up. And I can move this up. There we go. So we've finished our first one. Okay. Now, this is going to be, I'm just going to call this LBL title. And I'm not going to put any text in here. This second one is going to be called LBL employees. And I'm not going to have any text in there. All right. Now, probably this is going to have to be a little bit bigger because what it gives you in here for a default font is Segoe UL 9 point. So for now, at least, I'm going to come in here and make it 16 bold and Arial and hit enter. Okay. Now I may have to adjust that size, but I just wanted you to see that. All right. This first button here. Okay. This button, when we first start, we want to be able to show all of our employees when we click that button. So BTN, show all employees. In fact, what we're going to do is we're going to set this up. All right, we're going to set this up so that they're going to show right away anyway. So we really don't need to show employees. So let's do this. Show all employees by last name. Okay, so we'll do some sorting on there. All right. And for the actual text, I'll call it show employees by last name. Now, if I do go in and make that bigger like we usually do, so if I come in here and make this 24 as we usually do, so if I come in, make this 24, make this bold and make this Arial the way I usually do, you see that it's too big. So I'm going to stretch that out and we'll stretch that out as well. Let's see. All right. And it's kind of getting hacked off here. So let's try making it 20. How about 22? There. All right. So I'm also going to take this one, make it the same size. I just like a little bit of a symmetrical look. All right. In fact, let's move this one down. Let's try 20 and see if we can get that Y back in there. There. All right. And this one is going to say, we're going to call it BTN show salaries greater than a minimum. Okay? All right, it's because I forgot something, but we'll put it in just a second. And we're going to put in here for the text, it'll say, show salaries greater than min, like that. And just like before, we'll take this back. We made this 20, so we'll make this 20 as well. There we go. Now, the problem is, what I want to do when I click this is I need to show something that's greater than a minimum salary, but I've got to make a room so I can put in a minimum salary. So I'm going to move this up a little more, and I'm going to put a text box right here. I'm going to stretch it out. Let's again make it 20, just like the other, like the button is. Move it up just a bit, and we'll call this TXT minimum salary. Right there. And it won't have any text in it. All right. Now, the only thing I'm worried about right now, I'm not worried about a tab order. I'm not worried about a cancel button. I'm not worried about an accept button, but I do want to set it up so that when I run the program, it runs in the center of the screen. I just think it makes it easier to see. All right. We've put in absolutely no code so far. We're building the interface, and I'm really taking my time here. All right, which for me is kind of hard, to be honest with you. All right, in here, I want 4 labels because each employee will have a first name, a last name, a department, and a salary. In addition, each employee will have an employee ID. We're not going to show that in the add new employee. All right, so let me copy this and let me paste it in here. And I'm going to cut this way down, about half of what it was. All right, and again, we're going to have 4 of these. So that'll be the first name, that'll be the last name, that'll be the department name. And I don't know why I've got too many, but that'll be the salary. I don't need that one. And that'll be our button to add a new employee. All right, so this one's a little cramped for room. These are going to be a little bit nicer. Again, let me cut the size down here. Okay. And again, what size did we have in here? We had this as being 16. I'm going to make this 20 as well, but this box I'm going to leave smaller. So 20 in here. These will each be 20. And let's, just because I like doing this stuff, let's center these 2. Oops, I did not want to do that, but we'll fix that in a minute. Okay, now if you look, I've lost my interface. I don't know why it does this. All right, and if I double click on the actual file, it may or may not come back. So look, and you look here, nothing's here. Color hasn't changed. So I'm going to try to do a file, save all, because this is what happened to me when I worked on this yesterday. I'm going to exit. I'm just going to start it up again. Hopefully everything will be back. And like I said, it's a pain in the butt to work with this one. Maybe there's something I should be doing here that I'm not doing? All right, I don't know, but if there is, I don't know what it is. All right, I'm hoping my stuff will all be back right now. I did do a save, so if you are going to have to quit like that, make sure you save first. Oh, this is fantastic. It removed everything I had from here. What a flippin' joke. Wow. So you get to watch me build it again. Isn't that fantastic? Let's try a different color then. In fact, we're going to make that the dark green. There we go. That's too hard on the eyes. Let's try that. Maybe that's worse. I don't know. All right. First thing I'm going to do then is I'm going to come back in. In fact, let's use the light one here. It's a little better. And let's make our 4 group boxes. I'm sorry about this. I don't know what the heck happened right there, but something did, as you can see. Let's make that darker then. Okay, there are my 4 group boxes. Looks like I've got a little bit more room now than I had before, so let's move these down. All right, and we'll move these 2 down as well. All right, that's totally fine. All right, I'm hoping this doesn't happen again. All right, so start with our label. Let's change the color. Make it an auto size. About like that. Make another one. Underneath that, we're going to drag this down a bit. All right. And then we're going to put in our text box. Okay. And finally, we will add our 2 buttons. It's really cramped, so let's make this a little smaller so we can lift that up, and we can lift that up, and we can lift that up. All right, so there's my first one. Okay, let's just build the whole interface and we'll go back and rename everything. All right, so all right, so that'll be our select, that'll be our add. Our the one that we do for delete will be very simple. All right. It's going to actually have a drop-down list or a combo box. Okay. And a button, and that's really all it's going to need. All right. And then finally, The one that we do for our modify is going to look very similar to this one. So I'm going to grab everything that's in here, copy it, paste it in here. But the only thing is, what I will also need in here is the ability to bring in an employee ID. So I'm going to drag this down like that. I'm going to add one more. Oops, not that. One more label. And I'm going to add a combo box over here. All right. It was actually pretty quick, but I haven't renamed anything at all. So let's go in and do that right now. I sure hope the heck I don't lose any of this stuff again. So let's start with the group boxes. And we're just going to call this GB CRUD Select. And this will have for text, select, and query info, like that. The second one is going to be GB add employee, add employee, and it'll say add employee. The third one will be GB delete employee. And it will say delete employee. And the last one will be GB update employee. And it will say update employee. All right, let's go in and save. So I'm going to do a file save all on here. Hopefully it has saved now. Let's rename. We don't have to rename the form. All right, so that's good. We've got that. Let's give our form. Text isn't there, so we're going to again say LINQ demo. That's it. So that's done. All right, so let's start naming the individual components that are in here and do some resizing and the like. So this will be LBL title. And it's not going to have any text in it at all. I'm going to name this one LBL results. All right, and it won't have any text in it at all. This will be called TXT minimum salary. All right. Let's see. This one will be called BTN show last name ascending. How much is BTN last name ascending? All right. And let's put on there for the buttons text. Let's just put down by last name ASC, like that. This one will be BTN minimum salary. And so we will put in there for the text minimum salary. All right, so the first one should be done. Let me do a little bit of work with the sizing on here. So on this one, and this one, and this one, and this one, I think it'll let me work with the font at the same time in here. So again, we're going to try to make it 16 bold and Arial and see if it's too big or not. All right. So that worked. Move that, trying to move that up a little bit. So try that again. There. All right. So this one, I'm going to make a little smaller than that because it's going to hold all my employee information. So with that one, it is going to be, let's try 12 bold and Arial. All right. Then finally, let's take this and let's center the text that's in there. And then let's take this and center it as well. Okay, so I believe, at least, I believe everything that I have to do, for this particular group box is done. I believe it's all done. So let me do a file, save all, and let's come into here. So we made this 16. So let's make all of these 16. And we'll center all of these as well. Well, I don't know why it's not letting me do that, but it's fine. We'll fix it. I don't want to change the color. For all these, we want to change the font. And we just said we want to make them 16 bold and Arial. Okay, so that's done. All right, let me try to select these again. And see if I can, there we go, text align. I just want those in the center. There we are. I'm going to take these and I'm going to set the text align to center on that as well. All right, so let's start adding these. So this one is going to be, these are our ads. So I'm going to call this LBL add first name. And it's just going to say on it first name. All right, the second one will be LBL add last name. And as far as the text, it'll have last name. The third one will be LBL department name. I think I called it dept name, so that's fine. But in here, I probably will have room to put in department name, and I do. And finally, this one will be called LBL salary. So those are done. So let's come back in here. So since this was LBL add first name, this one will become TXT add first name. This one was LBL add last name, so this will be TXT add last name. This one was LBL department name. That should be LBL add department name. All right. So we'll make this one TXT add department name. And finally, this should be LBL add salary. So we will make this one TXT add salary. All right, finally for our button here, we're going to call this BTN add employee. All right, and we will put for the text in here, add new employee. All right, so I think that second one now is all done. So again, I'm going to do a file, save all. All right. So far we've got our add employee, and I didn't make that text is too big for the group box. Let me change that back and make it 12. That looks better. And on here, I'm going to bold it. It's going to stay at, I'm going to make it 12. I'm not going to use the default. Okay, those are both done. So let's come up to here and do the same thing with the text, with the group box to start. All right. So again, 12, bold, Arial. All right, just a little easier to read that, that's all. Okay, this, I guess I've changed that one as well, and I don't want to, so I'm going to make that 16. All right, and I want that to just say employee ID. So this is going to be called LBL delete employee ID. All right, and this will say employee ID. We have that. Let's center that so it's kind of looking the same as the rest. There we go. And since this is called LBL delete employee ID, all right, let's come back, and this is the combo box. Let's make this right there, CBO for combo box, delete employee ID. Okay, and this button was BTN add employee, so this one will be BTN delete employee. And this says add new employee, and the text is smaller than it should be, so let's change that size. I think that was 20. Yep, nope, 16. All right. So this one, again, we'll do the same thing. We'll change that text to 16. And this one will say delete existing employee. All right. So let me again come in here and save. So this will be our update right here. That's the last one that we have to do. Okay. And let's start with, we've got our group box, but let's go in and again, we'll make that 12. That text 12, bold, and Arial. Okay, that changed everything, I think, because I should have just clicked on the text, but that's okay. We're going to fix these all right now. So with these right here, these, I'm going to change those to 16. So that's done. And can we text align them? Yes, we can. All right, so those are all done. With these 4 text boxes, let's again make these 16. All right, and that's good. All right, and then finally with this one right here, we'll make that 16 as well. Now you'll notice, I mean, I could be real quirky, even quirkier than I am probably in here, but I'm looking at these. What size is this? Well, these are 12. Well, let's come in and make these 16. Because I'm quirky enough anyway, and you all know that by now. All right, but let's go in and rename these, and then we'll pretty much be done with our interface, ideally at least, and we'll get to start putting in some code. All right, so this is going to be, the name of this button will be BTN update employee, and the text on the button, which will be 16, will be update existing employee. All right, so this is going to be LBL update last name. Okay, and it will say last name. This will be, oh, I don't want last name. I'm sorry. That's going to be the ID. So let me change that. That will be first name, last name, department, and salary. So this one will be LBL employee ID. LBL update. Now I don't want to say update. We already have an LBL here. I mean, this is CBO delete employee ID. All right, then we will call this one LBL or CBO update employee ID. Okay, looking at that, looks to me like that should be 16 as well. It's still 12. Okay, I'm looking at, I mean, I'm thinking this is coming together. Hopefully you agree that it is. All right, so this has got to change. We now have the right name in here. LBL update employee ID. And this should say then employee ID. I could just have it say ID as well, but I'm being consistent. That says employee ID. So I'm going to make this one say it as well. So employee ID. All right. This now will be the first name. And it will be LBL update first name. This will be TXT update first name. This will be LBL update last name. And it'll have the text in there of last name. This will be TXT update last name. All right, this will be LBL update department name or DEPT name. And this will say department name. And this will be TXT update DEPT name. And finally, this will be LBL update salary. And it will say salary. What is somebody got a colon on the end like the rest of them? And this will be TXT update salary. All right. I'm going to at least attempt. Well, it's not doing it, but let's try it again. Hopefully now all of my controls are locked into place. All right. Okay, it ain't perfect, but it's not bad either. So let's quickly look in here and see if I missed naming anything. See, there's a lot of controls. And it doesn't look like I missed naming anything. Looks like everything is named as it should be. All right, let me do one more file, save all. All right, and I'm going to try running it. Now, I want to show you what sometimes happens. If I lose this now, I am going to be upset. You can see it doesn't run as fast, but there it is. Okay, so there is the app. All right, I probably should have put an exit button in here, but otherwise I just clicked the X. Now that stayed, that's good. All right, so what do we want to do next in here? All right, what do we want to do next? Well, I want to go in and I'm going to add a couple classes. I'm not going to worry about class libraries or anything else. All right, so I'm just going to come up here to my demo app and I'm going to add, and I'm going to add a class. All right, I'm going to call the class employee.cs. All right, And as always, I'm going to come in and make that public. All right. And that's going to have 5 things in it. And what I mean is it's going to have a public int. Now, this is going to be the ID. And I want to say something to you, and I'm hoping you're on this to understand this. All right. If you go in and I'm doing this as code first, like I tried to do the other day. All right. We're hopefully going to have better luck today, but we're doing code first. And we want this to become a table. If you put ID in the field name, it'll automatically make that a primary key. Typically, it'll be the first field. Now, I can call it ID, emp ID, employee ID, and the I can be upper or lowercase, and the D can be upper or lowercase. I tried to make it easier, so I call this employee ID like that, and then my get set. All right. Then I'm going to have a public string for the first name with a get set, a public string for the last name for the get set. All right. A public string for the department name with a get set. And then finally, a decimal for the salary. Now, if you notice when you look in here, because I'm trying to start to be a little bit more consistent, we're getting in here, we're getting these messages because there aren't any default values. So it says non-nullable, first name must contain a non-null value when exiting constructor. Consider declaring this as nullable. So if I wanted it to actually be nullable, where I could leave the first name out or the last name out or the department name out, I could come in here and put a question mark in there. And you can see then that the error goes away. All right. But I want them all to have a value in there. So I'm actually going to put in here equal, and I could put in, I think, just put in equal double quote, and that would work like that. But it's typically people put it in like this, string.empty, and you notice that the error went away. And it wasn't even an error, it was a warning. Now, I don't get one for here. I do not get one for here. All right. But it may end up not liking this because I don't have it initialized in there. I don't know if I put an equal 0 in there, if it would like that or not. But I know that when I did this yesterday and I didn't have a value in there, when it came up and built my database, it gave me a warning. Also, since it's a decimal, it shouldn't be 0, it should be 0M. All right, in fact, I don't even know. I think that's correct. All right, so this is our first class. Now, let's also come in and do a public override of our string, our toString method. All right, what we want is when we print out an employee's name, we want it to say, for example, Jeff Scott works in the AWD department and has a salary of whatever. All right, so I'm going to put that in right now. I'm going to start by getting rid of all this. All right, and let's put it in and do some interpolation. Okay, so I'm going to say in here, first name, space, last name, so it figured that out, works in department all right, and has a salary of and we'll make that when it prints out currency. Okay. So what did we just do there? Let me make this smaller so you can see all of it. All right, not too small. Oh, there we go. All right. So when we go to print out an employee, for example, it should say something like Jeff Scott works in department AWD and has a salary of, let's say, $50,000. All right, so each one of them should be set up like that. This is our employee class right there. There's not really anything new in here other than the fact that I did come in and I initialized all our string variables to string.empty and our salary to 0. And again, I'm hoping that's not going to come back and bite me later. We'll see. So I'm going to do a file, save all. Okay. All right. I'm going to come in and add one more class. So I just added the employee class. And I want to create one more class. And to be honest with you, I don't want to screw it up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to see if I can find it in here. And I'm going to explain everything that goes into it. You'll have to take my word for it, but I'm going to explain everything that goes into it. All right. So there it all is right up till there. All right. Now, what we're doing right now, what I'm going to do in here, because I don't need to have this class, I shouldn't even need to have it open probably for the rest of the period. But I'm going to come in here and I'm going to create another class. And it's going to be called employee context.cs. It's basically the way that I plan to tie together LINQ and my program. All right, and I'm hoping this all works. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to first say that this inherits from a class called DB context. And it's going to give me an error because it doesn't know anything about that class. But if I come in here and click there, all right, you'll notice it says I have to install something. Okay, well, let's install something next. All right, so we'll tell you what, we'll leave this out for now. Okay, and we're going to come in and we're going to install something. What are we going to install? I'm going to show you right now. So I'm going to go into Tools. You've seen this before. NuGet Package Manager and Manage Package is in Solution. Now we're going to do this a little bit differently. We're going to do this a little bit differently than we did it in the past because we now have version 7 running, so we can actually bring in all the tools we'll need. It's just 2 of them for now. So under install, there's nothing, which is what we'd expect. And I'm going to come over here to browse. And under browse, you can see these are all the tools that we have. There aren't a ton of them, but I'm going to come in here and I'm going to type in Microsoft Entity Framework. One word, Microsoft Entity Framework. All right. So Microsoft Entity Framework, I'm going to click that and you'll notice it cut it way down now. All right, we're going to bring in 2 of these packages. I suggest you do them in this order. If you don't do them in this order, will it not work? It probably will still work. I'm just trying to give you a best way of doing it. So first, I'm going to go over to Microsoft Entity Framework Core.tools. I'm going to click on that. It brings it over here. And now I can use the latest and greatest version because I'm using version 7. I'm going to click here on there, and I'm going to click install. And it's telling me what it's going to install. I'm going to accept that. And if it changes in here, so it now says uninstall, it installed it. So I've now installed one package, the Microsoft Entity Framework Core.tools. I also want the one above it, Microsoft Entity Framework Core.SQL Server. So I'm going to go to that one. Again, these are both highlighted. And notice now it says install. and it's telling me what it's going to put in. It's installing a lot of junk in here so that I'm going to be able to use it in what I'm working on. Now, I think it all worked, but what I like to do here is first go over to installed, and sometimes like this, you have to refresh. It doesn't show your packages. So I close this and I open it again. And now I look under install, and it should have in there both Microsoft Entity Framework Core.SQL Server and Microsoft Entity Framework Core.Tools. Now what you should notice, because I can close this for now, is now if I go in here and I put in :DB context, it still doesn't find it, but when I click on here now, it says, oh, do you want to put in using Microsoft Entity Framework Core? Yes, we do. It brought that in here because that's the NuGet package that we just put in. And now we're able to use this. Keep this as internal. All right. I didn't change it when I did mine and it seemed to work. So I'm going to leave it the way it is, not move that over to public. All right. Now, like I said, to be sure I'm doing this right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to the working copy or the semi-working copy right now. And I'm going to go in here. See, I used the library before. I'm not even bringing the library in. I'm just doing everything without even worrying about a library. All right, but I'm going to grab everything that's in here. It's not that much. It's about 20 lines. All right, I'm going to copy it to the clipboard, close this, and then try to bring that into here and hope I don't get any errors. If I do, we'll have to sift through them. All right, looks like I have a couple errors, and that's okay. We'll fix them right away. I know what they are anyway. All right, so I'm going to make this bigger. This is all stuff that you're going to be working with, those of you who take the AWD1100 class. All right, the database-driven web development 2 class in fall. You're going to be doing this, but after we've done it once or twice, we're going to look at a way to make it faster and easier. I didn't want to show you that now because I didn't want to confuse you. All right. So what have we added in here? This says that we're going to want to add and create. We're going to want to come in and create a table called employees. And that employees table is going to hold these things down here. This should be a capital D. That's why I'm getting the error, because I made it a capital D when I created my class, and they have to match. Okay. All right. So again, this DB set, notice sometimes the best thing to do is to put your mouse over it because it gives you a heck of a lot of information. That's the good news. The bad news is much of the stuff that they'll mention in there is over our heads, mine included, but it does explain some of the stuff that we're doing in here. All right. Now, then we come in here and we add this method that's called onConfiguring. As it says, it will help us set up our connection string. Now, if I go out to view and I go to SQL Server Object Explorer over here, and I open this up and I open this up, I already have a database that's called Rankin Employees. So I'm going to change the name. You can call it whatever you want. All right, if you're going to do this yourselves. Now, the stuff in here, the onConfiguring, if you want to find out more, I gave you a couple links in here. I'm not going to go over those links. All right, but this should look familiar to you, but it now says optionsbuilder.useSQL server, and then we have our connection string. Now this should look familiar to most of it. Server equal, and there's a mistake there. It should say local DB / MS SQL local DB. That's the path to our local server. This, I'm going to change it from Rankin Employees. Whoops. Try that again. I'm going to change it from Rankin Employees to Rankin Emps. I think you'd agree if you look right here. I do not have a database. It was from rank and employee, and above it, it says quarterly sales 16, and below it says registration. So I do not have a table that's called rank and imps. All right, I'm making this nice and small so we can see as much of this as possible. And I realize that's hard to see, but I want to show you the whole connection string in here. So it's options builder dot use SQL server, then your server name, which is the same one that we use, the same one that I told you to copy before. We all, I believe, are using in parentheses local DB, then backslash MS SQL local DB. Then is database equal. That's the name of the database that will be created with these records in the employee table. All right. Okay. And next we've got, and again, if you want some more information on this stuff that's in here, on this stuff, you can go and kind of follow my lead and look at these URLs. This says we trust the connection. And this multiple active result sets has to do with being able to let multiple people work on this at once. It's just something you put in. This is what's typically referred to as boilerplate code. All right. So we've got all that in there. And again, if you want more on the on configuring, the first link, I believe, has got that. And if you want more on the multiple connections, etc., that's the second link. All right. Then after that, we've got this on model creating. This is where we're actually putting in our table records. And again, notice I put in a couple links. If you want something on the on configuring and the on model creating, you can go over there. All right. So what we do in the first one up here, they're both public or protected overrides. This is on configuring. We bring in this context options builder that we called options builder. And now that sets up our connection string. And then with the next one, we've got this on model creating that's got a model builder. And the model builder says that what we're going to create is this basically this list of type employee. That's our class name. All right. This right here is typically what is referred to as creating the seed data. Now, we're manually putting that data in. Since we are manually putting the data in, we have to add the employee ID. We have to add everything that we want in there. Now, since again, I'm a little quirky here, it doesn't hurt to put in a multiple white space. So you can see I'm going to try to line everything up here. So if this works, when we get done, we should have 5 employees. Those employees then being Jeff Scott, who works in AWD and has a salary of $34,567. And I won't lie to you, I make more than that, but sometimes it don't seem like it. All right, that's the first one. Then next, we have Evan Gudmested, who works in AWD, and he's got a salary of $78,901. I have no idea if he makes more or less or that. Same with Tom Anderson, Ashley Reddick, and Charles Corrigan. So Tom and Ashley both work in the IT department, and you can see their respective salaries. And then finally, Charles Corrigan, my old boss, who's now an administrator, and his salary. All right, it looks like it's flagging something here as being an error. I'm trying to figure out what that is. And I think I'm missing a curly brace. There we go. So that is this connection string, this context. All right, what you're going to find, whether you take the AWD1100 database-driven web development 2 class, if you take it this fall, or if you take it probably like next summer, all right, you're going to do something like this. And you'll notice as soon as I moved over there, the stuff went and regenerated anyway. So I'm not going to worry about lining it up. Okay, so we've got that. So what have we done so far? We created our new Windows app that we call LINQ Demo. All right. And we created our interface. Then we came in and we created the employee class. Then, in order to be able to create our context class, we went into the NuGet Package Manager and we installed both the Microsoft Entity Framework Core.tools and then after that, the Microsoft Entity Framework.sql server. All right. And again, I could have come in and created a class library for those. Maybe I should have, but I didn't. All right. So we had two classes, the employee class. You've already seen this, and it was the one that had the employee ID, the first name, the last name, the department name, and the salary. And then the one that you see on your screen right now, which is the employee context class that we kept the typeset as internal. All right. And we went in and we did our DB set. Then we set up our on configuring. And then we set up our on model creating. And then we added what typically is referred to as our seed data. That's right here. All right. So far, everything has worked well. Let me do a file, save all. Try that again. A file, save all. And now I'm going to close this. And I'm going to keep these two open. But what I want to do now is I want to see if we can come in and create that Rankin EMPS database. See this again. I want to come in right now and see if I can create this Rankin EMPS database. How am I going to do that? I am going to again bring up the package manager. So tools, NuGet Package Manager, but this time I'm going to choose the top option, which is Package Manager Console. All right. And, well, it should be up in here someplace. For whatever reason, it's not showing it. Try it again. Tools, NuGet Package Manager Console. I think it's here, but it's hidden under something else. There it is. All right. I don't think I even need that open, whatever this is. But it won't let me close it, but that's okay. All right. So there I am. There's my NuGet Package Manager. Again with this thing. There. Okay. So the first thing I want to do in here, and if you look over here, I'm going to make this smaller. But if you look in here, you will notice I do not repeat. I do not have in here a folder that is named migrations. So we're going to get that in here right now by adding a migration. You do this from the package manager. It is, just so you know, it is case insensitive, but I'm going to say this. I'm going to say add hyphen migration. And then you can put it in double quotes, but you don't need to. You should make it one word. It works easier. And I'm going to say create Rankin EMPS DB for database. So I've got in there into my package manager, I have added a migration. All right. And that migration, all right, that migration is going to be called, it'll have a date stamp on it, and then an underscore, create Rankin EMPS DB. So when I hit enter, let's see if it creates that folder for us or if it gives us an error. Now, that's not an error that it gave me this in yellow. All right, now it says no store type was saved for salary. Okay, I did anyway. I did give it that an initial value, but it's okay. But if you notice now in here, I have a migrations folder. And in that migrations folder are two files. There is a snapshot, which basically, for lack of better words, the system kind of took a picture of what I've done so far. And then it has this file, which is the file right here. Now, this file, you'll notice, if I look, I still don't have a rank and EMPS database. There's not yet, but this file, again, we looked at this the other day. This particular file has two different methods in it. The first one is called up. And what it'll do is it'll create a table called employees. It'll have an employee ID, which will automatically have an identity, which will start at 1 and go up by 1. It'll have a first name, which is a string, a last name, which is a string, a department name, which is a string, and it defaults them to nvarchar max. I don't even know what that size is. Much bigger than what we need. All right. And it gives us the salary type decimal, and you'll notice again, that is 16 nines followed by a decimal point followed by 2 digits. Again, much bigger than we'd ever need. So this is setting up our schema, but it is doing it in C# code. It is not setting up that schema, all right, where we're in SQL Server doing it. Then it says, oh, you'll have a primary key, all right, and it'll be your employee ID. Next, it says we want to insert data. These are the 5 pieces of data that we want to insert in here. Why did it change the order? I don't know. But it changed the columns to employee ID, department name, first name. You should never go in and monkey with this file. All right. But it's got all of the same data that I showed you earlier. That's great. So I'm going to run update database, which will run this up method in just a moment. There's also a thing in there that if you make a mistake, so if your migration had a problem with it, you can remove the migration. So in here, instead where we just typed in add migration, you would put in remove migration followed by the migration name. I don't want to do that. But if you do, it runs this and it'll drop that table. All right. So what we want to do then is we want to come back down into our package manager right here and run the command update hyphen database and hit enter. And you'll notice it even says on there, hey, we just applied your migration. All right. So now what we can do is, for now at least, we can close this, move this way the hay down, and it's to say, hey, we still don't have that database. We have to refresh, come back down, look at our databases, and there's rank and EMPS right there. If I look at it and I go to tables, it has in there 2 tables. It has the one we just created, which was the employees, and it has another one where it keeps track of all the migrations we've done. I want to strongly recommend you never monkey with that one. If I look at DB employees and I look at the columns, it says we have an ID, which is our primary key, our first name, which is a string, nvarchar, our last name, which is a string, nvarchar, our department name, which is a string, nvarchar, a salary, which is a decimal, and all of them are set by default as being not null. So if I come in here now, if I come in here and I right mouse click on the name of my table and I choose view data, there are my 5 things. So I've now successfully come in here and done a code first database for you. All right. Okay. That's good. So we're going now. Okay. So let's get started. And I'm going to put in a bunch of code in here now. And as I put in this code, some of it won't make a lot of sense until we get a little bit later on and we're mentioning things. All right. I'm just going to keep going. I don't know if this is going to take an hour more, 2 hours more. I don't flippin' care. All right. But I'm trying to do this in a really slow, deliberate manner so that you can hopefully catch everything that I'm going through in here. All right. Okay. So I'm going to close that. That was that migration file, and I'm going to come back to here. All right. Now in here, my LINQ demo, I'm hoping against hope that this doesn't disappear like you saw it disappear before, but I'm going to right mouse click and I'm going to choose view code. We're going to look at code for a while. All right. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to do is up on the top, I'm going to add some global variables. All right. I'm going to put them in. I will explain to you what they are in just a minute. All right. So let's take a minute and go over what these things are supposed to be doing. Okay. This first one is going to represent literally the communication in our program between C# and LINQ. It is our database context. We can call it whatever we want. I could have called it employee context, but I called it employee data. Doesn't really matter. So this is, for lack of better words, we'll put in our DB context connection. Okay. Then this is our list of employees. Now, we used to write it like this. We used to write list, and you still can do this, but list employees equal new list employee, like that. And you still can. But now with one of the later versions, I mean, we could have done this too. And you'll see we don't get an error. So this is a shortcut for doing that. So this is going to basically, as it says, this is my list of employees. So in other words, these are going to be all the rows that are in our database. Okay. This is something that we're going to end up use in our update routine. I'm just going to leave it like that for now. All right. So is this. This is going to be the employee we want to update. Now, it's possible that the employee that we want to update is null. So we put that question mark in there so we don't get a warning or anything else. So again, this should be our employee to be updated. Okay. And again, I'm being slow. I'm being as deliberate as I can be in here, trying to make sure that all of this makes sense to you. All right. Then I'm going to come in here, and before I do the initialize components, I'm going to bring in or for lack of better words, I'm going to initialize my the employee context. And again, we call that employee data. All right. So I'm going to say employee data equals new employee context. Now, that may make little to no sense to you, and it's okay. Again, I'm setting up the communication between C# and LINQ. All right, I shouldn't even say that. I'm setting up the communication between C# and SQL Server so that I'm going to be able to use LINQ. All right, so then the next thing I want to do is to show all current employees. All right, and I'm going to call show employees. Now I'm going to get an error, of course, because I don't have a method right now that's named show employees. I do not have it. Since I do not currently have a method called show employees, all right, the system is giving me an error. So let's write that one right down below this. So it'll be a private void, show employees. And as soon as I put that in and put in my curlies, now the errors are all gone. All right. Now, what I want to do is I want to list all current employees. All right. And when I list them, I'm going to want to list them inside of here. All right. But the first thing I have to do is I have to write myself a LINQ query that is going to provide me with all of those employees. Okay. Now I want to look this right here. This is called LBL results because I called it something else earlier, which is fine. All right. So I'm going to write my LINQ query right here. And I'm going to say employee list. Remember, that's our list of employees. That is equal to our context, employee data dot employees and I'm going to put this on multiple lines. You can do that. That's called chaining. So I'm going to put down here dot select, and this just says I want to select everything from every employee. And then finally, I'm going to put dot to list. Now, most of the time, when you see this query written, it'll be written as one line. And if I'd made this all smaller, we could have put it on one line. All right. In fact, we could even do this and write it like this. And you'll notice I don't get any errors. I'm more in favor of writing my queries like this so I can see everything that's going to happen. In what this is saying is select everything from the employees table, and I want to put that into a list. And the reason I want to put it into a list is I need it in a list format so that I'm able to put it into my, so that I'm able to put it into the, what do you call it? The big label that I have, that LBL results. All right. So now I'm going to put in another comment that says display all current employees in LBL results into that label. All right. So I'm going to put it in as a loop for each and I'll put in here for each employee. You can call it this, whatever you want. I'm going to call it emp, an employee list. All right, so for each employee that's in there, I want to add this to that label. Well, one thing I want to do is I'm going to come up here and I'm going to say clear out label, clear out LBL results label before printing or before display. So I'm going to say LBL results dot text equals double quote, double quote. Now it could already be empty, but that's okay. Otherwise, if I don't do that, if I keep clicking the button that says by last name ascending, if I keep doing it, 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 if I keep doing that, all right, then what's going to happen is it's going to eventually give me some kind, it'll just keep adding to that list and putting a scroll bar on it and add another one and add another one and add another one, etc. Well, I don't want that to happen. So that every time I click the by last name ascending that's in there, every time I click it, all right, every time I click it, I want it to basically just give me the 5 or 6 employees that are in there. Now, one thing I noticed coming back in here, I promised that I was going to order that by, all right, I was going to order those employees by last name in ascending order. So after employees, I'm going to put order by. And notice there's no ascending. I don't have to put it in. I only do if it's in descending order. All right. So what am I ordering it by? E dot last name. So I'm putting it in order based on last name. Now I could have other fields. So if I had 2 people with my last name or 2 people with Tom Anderson's last name, I'm just going to leave it like this. So again, they should order them by last name. I could have ordered them by salary if we wanted to do that. In fact, we'll look at that with the next query that we write. All right, so in this for each, excuse me, this for each that we're putting in right here, all right, in this for each routine, this is going to be called, this routine, this show all employees routine is basically going to be called whenever we want to go in and display an employee or a list of employees. So every time we want to display one or more employees. All right. Now I'm going to put a couple more things in here. And for right now, I'm going to put them up on top. All right. And I'm going to put, it won't make sense. It's going to give me errors, but it's stuff I'm going to use later. So I'm going to put in here CBO, and you notice I already have that. So I've got for my delete, and I've got for my update. Well, I want to make sure that I clear out both of them. All right. So in other words, I'm just going to put a comment in here that says clear out both combo boxes. All right. Because if I don't, they're just going to keep adding and adding and adding and adding to them, which I don't want. All right. So what we want to do in here for now, all we want to do is to say LBL results dot text plus equal, and I don't want to say the employee. I could do it like this and put in everyone, every name and everything else. But remember, all right, for, I wanted to call that emp. You don't have to, it's just a little less typing. I'm going to say emp dot toString. And what's that going to do? What that should do is for each employee now, it should call this toString method that's down here. So it should say Jeff Scott works in department AWD and has a salary of $34,567. Then on the next line, it'll say Evan Gudmested works in etc. if we did it right. All right. And notice there's a plus equals on there. All right. So there is a plus equals on there. And then after each employee prints, I want to go to a new line. Like that. Now I'm going to put in 2 more lines here and I'm going to comment them both out. So don't worry about it because it's stuff we're going to use later. All right. So in here, what we're going to do is we're going to add. All right. We're going to add each employee to the LBL results label text. Okay. Now I could run it now and it should work, but I'm going to put in these 2 lines. And again, I'm going to comment them out. And this is going to say here, add employee IDs to delete and update combo boxes. All right. I actually could put them in. I think that would work okay. But I'm going to comment them out anyway because I want to do this as we're getting to that point. So let's see. So CBO. First one is delete employee ID. Dot items. Dot add. Emp dot employee ID. All right. And you'll notice I don't get an error. All right. And what I'll do is for now, I'm going to comment them out, but I'll uncomment them right away so you can see what at least should be happening. All right. So for now, I am commenting both of these out. All right. So file, save all. Now, when the program begins, it should come in here, and after it initializes the components, before that, it's going to set up the context, and it should call this show employees. And I should have stuff now when I run this in a minute in this text box, if I did it right. So let's do a file, save all, and let's run it. Let's go back to the code so you can, you won't have 2 pictures of the screen. So let's see if I've got my names in there. Do I have 5 employees in there? If I don't, we'll have to fix it. Well, it's a little bit too big, but it's all in there. You'll have to take my word for it. So I'm going to have to make this smaller. That's okay. We'll do that right now. All right. So let me stop run and let me go back to here. And I hope I'm not getting another one of these things here. Like I said, you'll notice when this happens, even though it says design, it doesn't show it. I've done this and let it sit for a couple minutes. It still doesn't show it. So I'm going to do a file, save all, and I'm going to exit and then open it again. This is what I don't like about doing it like this and running it with the Windows app as opposed to the Windows app.NET framework. Now my stuff better be here. There it is. Okay, so the writing in here was a little bit too big, and that's why you couldn't see everything. So we had made the size of that 12 point. All right, so I can either extend that, make it bigger, or I can make my size in here smaller. So I'm going to cut it down from 12 point to 10 point, hit enter and try running it again. And there are our employees. Tom Anderson works in Department IT and has a salary here, Charles Corrigan. Now, why did it put it in that order? Didn't we say that we wanted this in ascending order based on last name? A, C, G, R, S. It all worked. Great start. All right. The other thing I want this to do is if I've clicked that button, I want this here to say employees by last name, ascending order. Okay. So that particular one that's in there, again, I hate doing this. Good. That button that's in there, oh, give me a break. Come on. There we go. All right. This is LBL title. All right. So let's set the title right here. All right. Now, might be a little harder than you might think, but let's go over here into our code. Okay. So if I click this button right here, okay, if I click that button right there, all right, I want what? I want the query to run. That makes sense? All right. So if I click that button, what I want it to show me, all right, what I want in there, for lack of better words, all right, is I want it to go in and show me that employee. Now, the good news is it's already going to be up there. All right. But do I always want it to show me right now in here? What did we put? This will list all of our employees and it'll list all of them in order based on last name. You know what? I only want to do that if I clicked that button. So let me do this. I'm going to copy this and I'm going to take out the order by. All right. Now I'm going to come up to my button, my by last name ascending, and let's call by last name ascending, which we haven't written yet. So let's put it right here. Private void by last name ascending. Now we'll put that back in. Now it'll do the order by. What's the difference? Well, notice what happens. I'm going to do a file, save all, and I'm going to run the program again. Now they're in the original order that we put them in. However, if I click by last name ascending, oh, it didn't work. All right. I know why it didn't work. Because after we do this, we have to call show employees again to show them. So call show employees to show the updated employee list. And when I say updated, ascending order, last name. All right. So again, I have to call show employees. It's like that. So let's save this and stop the run. I'm going to save this and I'm going to run it again. It should come up now and show them in the original order, and they are. If I change it to by last name ascending, oh, why isn't that changing? Not sure. So let's see if we can figure it out. Employee list. All right. Oh, I know why. Because in show employees, it runs the original query. It runs this. All right. So even though I have put them in the right order, it puts them back in the original order. How do we get around that? Well, we can create a global variable. And I'm just doing this off the top of my head right now, okay? And we'll see if it works or not. So I'm going to create a global Boolean variable. And I'm going to call it show employees ascending. And I'm going to set it equal to false. All right. But if I call this one right here, if I call the last name ascending, all right, before I call show employees, I'm going to put in this show employees ascending equal true. Why? Because now I can tell it which one of these I want it to print. I'm going to bring this in twice. So this one, I'm going to say if employee, what did I just call that? Show employees ascending. If that's the case, then I do want to list all of them in order. All right. And I want to do it with that order by clause in it. All right. So dot order by no, not employee ID, employee last name. And it's just last name, not employee last name. All right. Otherwise, this is great because I'm rewriting this on the fly with you guys, and I like that. I want to show it in the regular order. All right, so let's come in here and let's run it. Now let's see if it changes. This should be the original order, now by last name ascending. And notice it changes. All right, exactly what we'd want to have happen there. All right, so we've got so far, I'm going for 2 hours and I got one friggin' button working. All right, and don't worry because we will, we'll be getting all of this done. All right, I'm just going to keep plugging along. I haven't taken a break yet. Luckily, I've got my drink next to me here. All right, so the next thing that we want to worry about in here, oh, please come back. Yeah, I know I get that goofy message. All right. So again, I'll have to do a file, save all, and exit, and then open it up again. I don't know why. I have to get a hold of Evan and Doug and see if they've run into this problem or not, because I've never seen this before. So please come up and please be there. All right. The next one I have to handle is this minimum salary. All right. That's the next one that we're going to work on. Hopefully that'll come up in just a second. There we go. All right. And I'm going to call this list all employees above minimum salary shown. Big name. Again, we'll need to write it. All right, we'll write it right there. All right, now, couple things. First of all, what if we run this and I leave it blank, or I put something non-numeric in there, or I put something negative in there. I should be able to handle all those. We already know how to handle all those. So we're going to do that first. All right, so I'm going to have bool result equal true, decimal salary equals 0.00M. All right, I'm just setting up a couple variables for me. All right. And the first thing I'm going to do is check for nothing. Now, we could have brought in the validator class. All right. And maybe that would have been a better way of doing this. But I just literally made a check in if statement. So check for nothing in txt minimum, I think it was called minimum salary. Text box. Let's double check. So this is called txt minimum salary. Good. All right, so if, try that again. If txt minimum salary dot text dot trim is equal to nothing, well, then there's absolutely nothing for us to work with. Okay, let's come down to, we're near the bottom anyway. So let's write down at the bottom here, let's write down our show message. We'll have a string for the message and a string for the title. All right. And then we will do our message box.show of the message, and then the title, and then our buttons, just with OK and error, just like that. And I'm going to put this, I like to do that because I think it makes it easier to see on its own line. All right, so what doesn't it like here? Method must have a return type. Okay, we need void. There we go. So if there's nothing in there, I'll call show message and say something like text box, how about minimum salary text box cannot be empty. Something like that. That'll be my message. And then for my title, I'll just have salary text box empty, like that. Now we should be able to test this. We should be able to test this. So file, save all. And I'm going to put nothing in there. And I'm going to click the button. And we get our salary text box empty. Good, that's working. Now I could go and set the focus there. There's no problem doing that. You already know that. So I can come in there, and if I'm working on this anyway, I can say txt, it's minimum salary, sorry. Minimum salary dot focus. Minimum salary dot focus, like that. All right, so if I get down to here, there was something inputted into the txt minimum salary text box. Verify that. First, we already know something's there. So we want to verify that it is numeric. All right, and also it is positive. In other words, greater than 0. Wouldn't make sense. I'm not allowing for something in here of 0. It's just the way I wrote it, okay? So we're going to do our try parse. So result equal try or decimal dot try parse of txt, our minimum salary dot text, and in the output we want to put it into salary. Right, so that's what we want to do right there. Okay. All right. If either not result, in other words, if it returned false, meaning something that's in there is non-numeric, or there was a salary, but that salary is less than or equal to 0, that's also an error condition. So I'm going to grab my show message that we did up here, and I'm going to copy it down, but just change the message. So, and I'm just going to change it to minimum salary text box must be numeric and greater than 0. All right. And we'll just put salary text box non-numeric or, whoops, or less than or equal to 0. And we'll put in that one there. Now, we'll not only give it the focus, but there's junk in there. So minimum salary dot text is going to be equal to nothing. We can now go in and test that. So file, save all, let's run it to test. And nothing in there, minimum salary, we get our error message. That's good. All right. We also get must be numeric and greater than 0. All right. Well, I'll show you why we got that in a second, but I'll put hello in there and click it. And now I get must be numeric and greater than 0. Now, the reason that we got both messages was stupid on my part, but after this, I should have returned. And after this, I should also return. All right. Now, by putting those two return statements in there, if there's nothing, we get the one message and it returns, and there's our focus. If we put in something non-numeric, we get the other message and it returns. And if we put in something that's 0 or less, we get the error message and nothing comes back. Good, everything's working, fantastic. So if we get down to here, there was a numeric salary greater than 0 inputted into the TXT minimum salary text box. So now I can actually do my thing. All right. So what we want to do in here, I'm going to say this again. What we want to do in here, all right, is we want to come in, all right, we want to come in here and we want to actually show everybody who's got a salary greater than whatever we entered into there. Now, I forgot to do something in here. In our list all employees, not that one, in our by last name ascending here, let's also come in and let's set our title text box accordingly. And if you say, what does that mean? LBL title dot text equal employees in last name. How about just last name ascending order, like that. On the other hand, if I'm doing it, we're going to do it like this. Yeah, that'll work. In fact, let's not even do it in there. Come down here, and where we print out all of our employees, okay? If it was just listing all of our employees. So this is list all of them, list all current employees in ascending order by last name. All right, so we will come in there and do that. We'll set that title, last name ascending order. Okay, and so that is doing that. And then this. All right, and I'll put in here, this is going to list them all in their original order. All right, so let's, for the title in there, let's set our title again accordingly. And we'll just say, employees in original order. Let's see if that works. So file, save all, and we'll come back and we'll go back right back to the one we were just working on. So employees in original order, that's what we wanted. If we click by the last name ascending, we get last name ascending order. Perfect. That's exactly what we want. All right, so let's stop that and let's go back down to here. So again, we're doing our last list all employees above minimum salary shown. So we did some validation here, and now we're actually going to run the query. All right, so employee I want to be able to set the title. So now that I think about it, I think that where we set the title here, we are going to set that down below. And I'm going to say here, if LBL title dot text dot trim is not empty. All right. In fact, if it is empty, so dot trim. If it's empty, then we'll put in this title, LBL title in original order. Now I'm going to have to move this back down. So here I want to set that. Okay. All right, let me move this. If I'm seem real spacey to you, I'm not, believe it or not. But what I want is it should work exactly the same way it just did. I forgot to put a semicolon. Oh, I'm not doing that yet, so. Okay, so this should work just like it did before. In other words, the first one, when it comes up, employees in original order, when it's last name, that changes. All right, now I want it to change again to say the minimum salary. And when I click the add employee, I want them to be in there, you know, and say, you know, updated employee or something like that, or deleted, or, you know, or added or deleted or updated. Okay, hopefully all that made a little bit of sense to you. So we're down to here, and we do have something. All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to write our query. Employee list. All right, equal employee data. Again, I'm going to write it over multiple lines. Dot employees. Dot order by, and now I want it to be ordered by in descending order, but I want it ordered by salary. All right, I'm still not done yet, but it's getting there. Where, now I'm putting a where clause in here. E, where the salary is greater than the salary that I just put in there. Still not done. Why? Because it still needs that to list that you see right there. There we go. Plus, let's again change our title. So let me again come in and where it says set our title accordingly, let's do that as well. So this will be employees making greater than, and then we need that plus salary dot toString. We can make it currency. So for instance, if I'm going to run this in a minute and I'm going to put in $70,000, our title should now be employees making greater than $70,000. Plus it should list those employees in order, descending order based on their salary. So the highest salary should be first. So let's try it. So you can see in here, we have 34, 78, it looks like 56, 77, and 98. So let's put in here for our number, $75,000. And now is the big test. We're going to click our minimum salary. Notice employees making greater than 75,000. That's the good news. The bad news is it shows everybody. That isn't good. All right. Why is it showing everybody? It's showing everybody because when in here, we didn't call that show employees. Okay. And when we do call show employees, let's see, it's going to be doing this one again. Wait a minute, where are we? In our show employees. So the show employees ascending is set. So we're going to make a bunch of Boolean variables, I guess. So I'm going to make another one here that's called bool show more than min salary. I'm going to also set that equal to false. All right. So here I want to run this one, or in here, I want to run this one. So what I'm ending up doing is let's see. And we're going to set that, make it false, just like we did there. All right. So if it's that, we want to run this, else we want to run this. So the problem is with all of these, I want to run this and then I want to call. Yeah, that's all okay. I've already run the query here. I've already set my title here. So I don't have to run the query again. All right. So if this is the case, I don't want to do anything here, because I've already handled it. And again, I don't want to do anything here either. Right? So if either one of those cases are true, I don't want to do anything because I've already done it. There's where I've done my stuff for the last name ascending, and here's where I've done my salary stuff. All right. So I can do this, but I do have to call show employees then. Now let's see if it works. Now there's other ways of doing this. I changed this around from what I'd done earlier. And don't get me wrong, I'm not making any excuses, but I'm just saying I'm sure if I thought about it somewhere, I'd probably come up with a different way of doing it. All right, it's still showing me everybody, which it should not be doing. We're gonna fix it. It's all got to be in the show employees here. So, oh, I didn't set that flag to true, and that's the problem. So if this is the case here, if we get down to here, we set our label. All right, I also have to set our Boolean flag to true. So, all right, so let's look at it now. And I'm going to run into other problems. So now notice we only get 98,000, 78,000, and 77,000. Whereas if I make it 55,000, it should now show everybody, except it should not show me because I put myself in as 34,000. All right. And again, it is in the right order. All right. So that's working. Okay. So we've got this working and this working. And when it comes up originally, it's working as well. Great. So let's do the add employee next. All right. One way I could fix this would be to come in here and make this much bigger than it currently is. All right. And if I made it much bigger than it currently is, one of the things, if I wanted to do it that way, that I would be able to do would be rather than having one area where I'm printing out all of my information. Because after I add an employee, I'm going to want this to be updated. After I update an employee, I'm going to want this to be updated. After I delete an employee, I'm going to want that to be updated. So probably a better way to have done that, or at least possibly a better way to have done that, all right, would have been for me to have come in and created separate areas. So a separate area to print in here and in here and in here. I didn't do it like that. So I'm just working with what I've got. All right. So let's see. One thing that I do want to do is at the end, when I get done, I'll do it later. All right. But when I get done, in fact, I can do some of it right now. In my show employees, okay, I've come in here now, I've printed everything out. Boom, everything's cool. But at the bottom, I want to make sure I reset both of those flags to false. So I'm going to say reset all Boolean flags to false. And so far I've got show employees ascending equal false and show more. And I want that to be equal to false as well. All right, I'm going to have more when I get, keep going here. All right, now I'm going to hit enter. It's going to restart. Didn't reset. Good. All right. So the next one that we want to work on here is we want the ability to add a new employee. All right. So when we look in here, you can already see we're going to have to fill that up. And if you notice our names in here, this is TXT add first name, TXT add last name, TXT add department name, and TXT add salary. We will not have to come in here and worry about adding IDs, because if you remember when we set this up, it automatically set itself to the identity with a 1-1, meaning start at 1 and increment by 1. All right, so let's put in our add new employee. But again, we'll call it attempt to add new employee. All right, and we'll come down here. All right, and now we're going to put all of this good stuff, so to speak. We're going to put all of this, okay, into our program. Yes, I do have notes with me. All right, so we've got attempt to add new employee. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is, we don't have to do this, but let's check to make sure that all of those fields have got a value in them. Okay, so this is gonna be ugly, but I'm gonna do it like this anyway. So if TXT add last name dot text equals nothing. I'm doing this. This is not what I did on mine. So this program is going to be longer than mine. I'm going to do a show message. And it's just going to say last name add cannot be empty. Last name add text box empty. Not Boz box. All right, if that's the case, I want to do that, and I want to do what else? Well, it's empty, so I can just give it the focus and return. All right, I'm sure there's a much better way of doing it than what I'm doing right here. All right, so I'm going to write this 4 times. So we'll put in here, validate last name text box not empty. And it's not last, it should be the first name. I should do it in order. So that should be first name, and this should be first, and this should be first. All right, now I'm going to grab this, copy it, come down and paste it in. Now we will validate that the last name is not empty. So this will be last. And that one should be first. Okay, then let's come down again, hit enter, and we'll validate that the department name text box is not empty. So that's TXT add depth name. And this will be department. I think I've made any errors yet. We're going to run this in just a minute. All right, and then finally, we will validate that the salary is not empty. So that'll be add salary. All right, so we can now check all of those. Hopefully I didn't make any mistakes, but we'll find out right now. So we come in here. Now we're moving over to the add. There's nothing in here. All right, first name, add cannot be empty. Last name, add cannot be empty. Department name, add cannot be empty. Salary name, add cannot be empty. All right, all of those seem to work. Try one more time. I want to check my headings. First name, last name, department name, and finally, salary. All right, so that's all working. Those are our beginning validation checks, but again, just like we did before, even though I'm going to be not doing the dry principle, I'm going to be repeating text I've already put in. Where is that? I'd rather do that and get it right than try to write a routine and screw it up. Yeah, I'm gonna steal all of that. And I'm gonna have to make a bunch of changes to it, but that's okay. All right, don't worry about the salary. That's totally fine. All right. So there was something inputted into each of the 4 text boxes. So now I have to verify that the salary is numeric and that the salary is positive. All right, so we have to add this blue result. Make that true. All right. All right, so result equal try parse txt. This salary that we made right here, I think we made it here as I'm going to make this global so that I'm able to use it everywhere without having to recreate it all the time. And we'll just say here, employee salary. All right, so now that error that was in there should be gone. There. So, okay, then the add salary text box must be numeric. And then we are coming in there. And so this is add salary. This is add salary. All right, good. All right. So we can change our title here. All right, to attempt to add new employee. All right. So where we've got this, show this, I'm going to call show add new employee, which doesn't exist right now, and that's why I'm getting an error. So again, I'm going to put that up on the top. And again, we will initialize that to false. Now I can put comments here, but they're all just Boolean flags. All right. So show add new employee. And there I'm saying that it's true. Good. All right. So all right. First thing we want to do is come in here and, for lack of better words, create a new employee object. So employee, this is going to be an add employee. So let's call them that, add employee equal new. And we're going to use the newer syntax. So the first name is equal to txt first name add dot text, the last name to txt last name add dot text, the department name to txt department name dot text, and the salary, we can't just say it's equal to txt salary. No, we've got to say decimal dot parse to txt add salary dot text. All right. Now, a couple things. We've got everything in here. That's good. All right. We need a semicolon there, and that's why we've got that error. And it should be valid because we've checked it in here already. Otherwise, it returns. So we don't have to check for that. All right. But now what we have to do is we have to attempt to add that employee. Attempt to add the new employee. Okay. So we're going to put a try in here. And you know what? If the try succeeds, then we're going to set this title. So if that try succeeds, we're going to set the title. Okay. But if it fails, we'll do a show message that'll just say like error attempting error attempting record add. All right, so for some reason it doesn't work, we'll put that in, error adding record. So if something doesn't fit, so to speak, we should have covered it all up above, but that's okay. All right, so we're going to come in here, and now there's no query to write here. We have to attempt to add new employee to the Rankin EMPS DB employee table. That's what we're trying to do. So I'm going to say employee data dot employees dot add. That's adding that employee. And then we do a save changes. All right, so we're attempting to add it, attempting to save the ad or write the ad to the database. All right, so employee data, it's a two-step process, really. Employee data dot save changes. All right. We might as well give them a message box. Message box showing add worked. We won't use show message. We'll just use a regular message box here. I'm not going to worry about buttons or anything else in here. I'm just going to put in employee record added, and we'll put in for a message successful add. All right, now we're setting our title. If that worked, we can just say records, how about just updated DB with new employee. Okay. All right. So again, we've highlighted everything. So I've got to go back now into here and do another else if. Let's just move these up on the same line. So again, if that's the case, we want to do nothing. Else, if that's the case, we want to do nothing because we've already done everything. All right. Otherwise, if that's the case, we again want to do nothing. Otherwise, we want to set that title, run that query. So let's see if this works. All right. I'm not using EX, so let's also show the message, not just my message. Let's put a plus in here and we'll put in this EX message, comma. All right. And now we have just one warning in here. So let's try to see if we can add an employee. So file new or save all. File, save all. Let's run it and see if we can add an employee. All right, I believe one of the employees from St. Louis who's going to be coming over here now in fall is Duke Miller. He will be in the IT department. Let's just give him a 54321 salary. 321 salary. Add new employee. It says the text box must be numeric and greater than or equal to 0. So it doesn't like what I'm trying to do in here. So let's look at it. All right. So when we're adding it, this is why I'm trying to do a little bit at a time. Salary equals decimal dot triparse. That looks good. So if it's this or this, otherwise it should be salary, not txt salary. And I don't even have to parse it. It already has been parsed. It's nice. Sorry about that. I thought I had my phone off. Let's try it again. So file, save all. Let's run it again and see if we can add Duke. He should not be in here because it didn't succeed. So Duke, Miller, I think it's Miller, IT. What doesn't it like? Salary text box, non-numeric, or less than or equal to 0. It's non-numeric because it's not recognizing this. So something is still wrong in my check. So if result equals decimal dot try parse, put this into salary. All right. Attempting to add. Why is this failing right here? Ah, wrong name. TXT add salary dot text. Again, I'm doing this and I'm trying to show you the errors I make so you can see it. I'm doing everything basically in real time here. So once again, Duke, Miller, IT, 65432. Add new employee. New employee added. Updated DB with new employee. All right, I'm not running the show employees, so there's a problem. But with that said, my guess is he probably was added to the database. So let's look. All right, so let's go down to our rank in EMPS tables. And let's show the data and see if he was added to the database. There's Duke Miller. All right. I am going to delete him because I'm going to re-add him in just a second. There's a lot of ways I could have removed him, but that's okay. All right. So what's the problem? I didn't call show employees to my knowledge. All right. So let's look. So let's close this. When we get down to the end here and we do all this stuff, we should then call show employees, which we were not doing. So let's see if we can get Duke to show, no one pun intended. All right. So let's come back in, do it again. Duke, Miller. All right. IT, I'm going to give him a different salary than before. So 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now I could change this. So, I could put his name in there and just say Duke Miller has been added or whatever. So add new employee, says successful add. Okay. Updated employee. It is not showing in here. So there is still a problem. All right. Oh, I know what the problem is. The problem is, okay, this is kind of neat. All right. The problem is this query is now not being run. Our query that we put in here in our show employees, we only run it if that's the case. Okay, but we do want to run this to list it because it's not listing our current employees now. All right, so I'm going to do this. I'm going to remove this and I want to put it into its own routine. Now there's different ways that you can do this, but one way to do it is to right mouse click on it and choose, I think it's the quick actions and refactoring. And I can choose extract method and I can put it into a new method now. And I'm going to call this link to show all employees. All right, enter to rename. Notice I don't get an error because it put that in here. There it is. So what I did was I took existing code that I had, pulled it out of a method that it was in. All right, but now I do have to call it in here. will be, no, I don't. Get rid of that. So where are we? There it is. So I want to call this link to show all employees. I also want to call that, you can see how big this program's getting. Now it's up to 260 lines, and I still have, the delete won't be long, but the update will. All right, so not just show employees. All right, so let's see. I don't know the order in which I want to put these, that's all. I want to call that, but it may not be in the right order, so let's see. Let's add John Doe. We'll say John Doe will work in accounting, and we'll make 55555. All right. All right, there's John Doe, there's Duke Miller. It says it was updated. Updated DB with new employee. I believe I put it in the right order. All right, now we want to delete. And if you remember from earlier, one of the things that we had put in here that I commented out, as soon as I put it in, was these two things here. Well, I'm going to take the one for deleting and I'm going to uncomment it. I don't get an error. I could uncomment the other one. I don't want to for a minute. But I'm going to do nothing else but that, save all, and I'm going to run this. Now I should have numbers in here, and I do. So what I want to do is I'm going to want to remove John Doe. So I'm going to click 8. And when I click that button right now, nothing happens. But I want it to come in there and delete John Doe and rewrite this without John Doe in there. All right. So far I'm half done. I've got this working where at the beginning it prints out all of my people. I can also go in and do them by last name in ascending order, or I can do a minimum salary. All right. And I can add somebody new. So the next thing to come in here and do is to do my delete routine. So we're going to do that right now. Now I just came in here and now I've got show add new employee. All right. It's going to sound like a weird name, but I'm going to call this show remove employee. All right. I'm going to set that to false. And I've got to do my work now to actually go in and to delete an existing employee in here. All right. The other thing I don't know if I'm doing in here right now or not is, and I'm going to write a routine to do this, is when I ran that and I added that new employee. So let's add another one. We'll add John's wife, Jane. So in here, I'm going to add Jane Doe. Jane Doe. We'll say that she's in department, just call it PLU for plumbing, and she makes $33,333. I'm just making all that up. Well, you'll notice that this is still all filled up. I want to clear that. So I'm going to call this clear add employee text boxes. All right. So let's do that. So right at the end here, and I'm going to do this. I'm going to do it like this. So right in here, when I did my save changes to add and all this, and right before I do the show employees, I'm going to call clear add employee text boxes. All right. So let's put that down here. Now, I did show you a new way to write all that. All right, where we could do a for loop, etc. I'm just going to do it the old bump and grind way. So txt add first name dot text equals nothing. Txt add last name dot text equals nothing. Txt add department name dot text equal nothing. Txt add salary dot text equals nothing. All right. Why? Because it was faster than me having to go back and check on how to do that. All right. So we're going to, just to make sure that works, file, save all in here. All right. And let's add one more person. John and Jane had a son named Jim Doe. He works in marketing, which is MKT, and he makes 67890. Okay. Now this is getting too big, but that's all right. So add it, and notice they're all in there, and this was cleared out. So all that's working. So I'm now done with half. Let's do the delete next. And we called that thing in there again. We called it show remove employee. All right. All right. So that good. That's not uncovered anymore. So that's good. And again, these will be our Boolean flags. Whoops. All right. So let's do our delete stuff now. So you'll notice that when we do this, all we need is an employee ID. All right. Now I'm going to see if I can do something here. It just came to me like that, believe it or not. But let me move this over. All right. And I'm going to make that smaller. And I'm going to make that bigger. I don't know if what I'm about to do is going to work or not. All right. Because right now what I'm doing is I'm adding the employee, and I am adding his or her ID. So you kind of have to know what employee goes with what ID. Let's see if we can change that and put in their names. I don't know if I'm smart enough to do that or not. So this is our delete button. So we're going to say attempt to, rather than add new employee, we're going to attempt to delete existing employee. All right, so private void, and we will put that in. Get rid of that. All right, so we're going to attempt to delete an employee now. Not super long with what we have to do, not really that short either. All right, okay. This is where I don't know if it's going to work or not. What I had in here was int employee ID to delete equals cast as an int CBO employee IDs dot selected item. Now, rather than you watching me flounder, I'm just not going to do that. I am going to just do it by the number. All right. I'm going to do it the way I've done it before, because otherwise, I mean, what I'd like to be able to do is to come in here and actually put in an ID. I'm sorry, a name rather, have this show as a name. All right. And am I smart enough to do it eventually? But to be honest with you right here, no, I'm not. Let's see, these are what? We're just going to do it like this. Okay, that's fine. All right, so I'm going to come in here and start doing it. Now, we're deleting an employee object, so I'm going to put in here employee to delete, all right, equals employee data, our context, dot employees. Let me move this over. Back, let's put it on multiple lines again. Employee data dot employees dot, I think that should be an S, dot employees dot find, and we want to find employee ID to delete. All right, now it's giving me funky stuff here, so let's see if we can figure out why. Well, it is possible this could not return something. So I think if I come in there and put in that, that's saying that I'm allowing nulls. I mean, what if I somehow didn't have an employee, but for some reason, their number was still in the list? That should never happen. But what if it did? All right. So I'm going to, again, attempt the delete. All right. And we're going to say if employee to delete is not equal to null. All right. Then we're going to come in here and try to delete them. So we'll put in a try. Underneath that, we'll put in a catch, and we'll put in here our show message, and it'll say error deleting employee, and we will put after that a \n, and we will add to that ex.message, comma, and then error deleting something like that. Okay, now what doesn't it like? This should be a plus sign. There we go. All right, so that's handling if it doesn't work. Now, we can come in here, just delete them. The problem is, what if we accidentally chose the wrong one? Well, we already know how to write this, where we can come in and say, are you sure you want to delete this record? So we're going to do that right now. And if they say yes, there's not much to do. Just being consistent with my error messages. Error adding record, error deleting. deleting record. Okay. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to use a dialog result dialog equal message box dot show. And it will say, do you really want to delete employee? Let's actually put their name in there. We've got employee to delete dot first name plus blank space plus employee to delete dot last name. So we'll say, like, do you really want to delete John Doe? All right, we'll even add on to that a question mark. Okay. All right, now we'll say delete this employee, like that. All right, plus this is a question, so we can do our message box buttons, and we'll have a yes, no here, because yes, they want to, or no, they don't. We don't need a cancel in there, so. And we'll put message box question, because it is a question. And then if it's yes, we want to actually do the deletion. All right, well, let's do it the other way. Let's say if it's no, we'll just return. And we'll make sure that when we do that, we've already come in here and we've set that title, right? So we came in here. Oh, we're not setting the title till the bottom, or we're not even setting the title. Okay, that's okay. All right. So if we get down to here, we want here to verify this is the employee to delete. All right. And if we get down to here, delete this employee. All right. So we'll say employee data dot employees dot remove employee data dot save changes. All right, let's give them another message box and let them know that that employee was deleted. So message box dot show employee. Grab a bunch of the stuff I did up here. Just going to grab that. For now, I'm going to have to change it around, but that's okay. All right, first name plus employee dot last name. And we're going to say that employee was deleted. And what did we say when we had an add? Successful add, so we'll say successful delete. We don't need that. This will be just an okay, because we're just alerting them. And this will be information. Now up above where we did the add before, you might as well put in here the buttons, which is an OK again, and the icon for a information. Okay. All right. So we're just about finished with this one, I think. Now, when we finished the last one, we had to call LINQ to show all employees and then show all employees. At the bottom after our catch. So let's do that same thing here. All right. Plus, we want to go and set our title as we did in here. So there. That should be the last thing that we want to do in here. We're kind of just going to put the same thing that we put in our message box. But technically, we don't even need to do this, but that's okay. Well, that wasn't good. So employee first name plus, again, a blank space plus last name plus was deleted. Okay, so that should set that title. Well, let's see if we can delete. Let's pick on Jane Doe. So file, save all. And Jane Doe is the last one. So it should be whatever's at the end here. So it should be 10. Delete existing employee. Do you really want to delete employee? I guess it's Jim Doe. Do you really want to delete employee Jim Doe? Yes. Employee Jim Doe was deleted. Employee Jim Doe was deleted. And Jim should not be in here anymore. So if we show everybody by last name, we shouldn't have Jim Doe in here anymore, and he's not. Okay, so we've now got 3/4 of the way through. Now I had problems with the update. It wasn't working. I'm still going to give you all the code, and I'm going to save everything, of course, but I'm going to go back then and look at this weekend and no pun intended, but update what I'm working on here. All right. So again, the only one to do then is the update. Okay. So let's come back here. You'll notice that when we update, we need an ID. When we pick number 1, that should put in Jeff Scott, AWD 34567.00. If I make changes to any of these fields and I click update, this should disappear. This should be updated in here along with our title. All right, let's see. Now, I was just thinking about this with our add employee that we had, because when we got down to the end and we did all this, our title just said updated employee. Let's see, can we say, I don't know if this will work or not, but let's see. All right, no idea if this will work or not, but it sure should. I like this better because what I wanted to say is the name of the employee that was added. So let's see if we can do that. So let's bring Jim Doe back. The only thing I'm worried about is I didn't make the heading wide enough to hold all that, but we'll see this heading. So we're going to come back in and add, we'll make them Jimmy Doe. Department name, again, marketing. So add new employee was added. New employee Jimmy Doe added. And he is in here. There's just not enough room to show him. How do I know that? If I come back in over here and I remove Jane Doe, I think that is. There's Jimmy Doe. Okay, so everything is working right now. That's great. All right, now we're going to attempt to see if we can get our delete to work. Again, I had problems with it, but it is what it is. Yeah, I'm already now up to what, 340 lines in here. One of the bigger programs I've written in this semester. All right. Now, one thing I want to do before we start is, again, I did this before, but one of these things that here we're going to change, we'll add this first of all. Wanted that to be a D. That should be removed employee. And really, that should be added. This is just me. I'm just constantly tweaking stuff, whether that's right or wrong to do. All right, so show removed, and this, that should be deleted. All right, now, yeah, this has to be added. This has to be removed. And I'm going to have errors down below too. Else if show deleted employee, do nothing. All right. I could have written this probably as a case if I would have thought about it. All right. But I'm going to leave it the way it is. Again, I should have two errors in here where I have to change the name of those flags. Show that should be added. And down here, that should be deleted. One thing did I do in here? Did I set the deleted flag? All right. Like I said, now I'm up to what, 342 lines after adding a couple things here. Now, did I add my updated employee? I don't even remember. So let's double check. All right, so I've got these. Oops, not there, Jeff. So this will be updated employee. And we want that to be false also. There we go. Show updated employee. All right. So good. All showing good. All right, let's try to do our update routine now. So that's going to be this one right here. And as I mentioned just a minute ago, a lot earlier in this program, we had something that we commented out, and then we commented 2 lines out. We uncommented one of them. I gotta let the system find it for me. CBO. There. So that was the one for the update right there. So now notice, I do a file, save all, and I run this. One thing that should happen is in here, there's my numbers. That's everybody. All right. So the first thing I want to do is make sure that when I do this, okay, that I am filling in right here, that I am filling in those values. So if I choose the 11 right here, it says Jimmy Doe marketing, and I can give them a new whatever. I can't change the ID because that's the primary key anyway, but I should be able to come in then and make changes to the other fields that are in there. And that's what I had some problems with. So all right, let's first go in and set this stuff up so it fills stuff in. All right. So what I'm going to do, I don't know why the program's running. That's why. So let me go back down to the bottom here. When I get done, I'm going to move rather my show message way down to the bottom because I just like that to be at the bottom. All right, so I'm now down here, and I didn't want to run it, Jeffrey. All right, I want to, oh, come on, don't do this. Good gravy. Oh, there you go. Come on, rewrite yourself. Jeez Louise. Attempt to, we had delete existing employee, so I'm going to call this update existing employee. Of course, I will get an error because that does not exist. But before I even do this, all right, what I want to do is I want to set it up so that if I change this, it fills in with a new employee. So let me bring that up. All right. And I'll call fill, not that, fill in current employee to update info. Now I put very few comments in here. All right, virtually none, but I'm trying to come up with names that are reflective of what it is I'm trying to do. And I hope, that helps people. All right. So we'll put in about 10 lines here. And then with our update, we'll put in about 30 or 40 more. If the update doesn't work, I'm going to stop the lecture right there. All right. In fact, what I'm going to have to do, it's 11:34, so I've got to get my butt in gear. I've got probably till about 12:10. All right. So let's get going. All right. So the employee update to ID equal. Boy, oh boy, whenever I get mail, I got to be able to turn that off. When I try to, it goes back on again. And we'll put this on multiple lines. Come on. 8. All right, so that's going to attempt to find whatever one I've chosen. And if it's not null, which it shouldn't be, okay, then I'm going to fill text boxes from the database. So the TXT is going to be on this side. So I got a TXT update first name, and that's going to be equal to we got our last name. Doesn't like something in here, so let's see if we can figure out what. It's not null here. Let's see. Employee update ID equals int. That's correct. Employee question mark update employee equals employee data dot employees dot find that ID. If it's not null, I don't think I can take that. No, it didn't fix it. Cannot implicitly convert. Oh, it's not text. That'll do it. Dot text. Boy, oh boy. All right. TXT update department name dot text equals the department name. TXT salary. And that's update salary. Dot text equal. Now with this one, I've got to say update employee. What is it? Update employee dot salary, but I won't like that unless I do a toString on it because it's trying to put a number in there. Okay. And I'm not going to change it so it looks, basically so that it's a in currency format or whatever. Let's see if that works. So file, save all. So we know already this works, and this works. So I'm down to here. So I'm going to choose the last employee, which was Jimmy Doe. And well, all that is filled in, but this is wrong. So first name and last name, department name is wrong, and salary is empty. So let's fix those. Oh, and that should be right there. That should be salary. All right. Let's try it again. And again, we'll pick on Jimmy. And there's all of his information. All right, but I want to be able to come in here and do something like this, change it to James, click update, and have it actually do the update. That's what I want to have happen. All right, so we're going to come in here. I'm going to write code until about 12:10. It probably will not work. All right, you have been warned already. All right. So I've clicked that button, boom, boom. And for whatever reason, it appears as though update employee, maybe that's it. That update employee should be global, but I thought I made it global. There. We're going to be using this now. That's as it says, that's our employee to update. All right, this is where I had the problems, but I'm going to put everything in here. I promise you that this will be out there, and it'll be out there this afternoon, whether I get it to finally work or not, and it'll be called LINQ Demo. All right, it will be out there. So hopefully this is, my hope is at least it's going to provide help for people who need it for their final project. All right. So let's come back in here. There we are. Well, what did we call these things? TXT update first name. Now we're going the other way. Now we're copying it over from the text box. Back into the database. This is the salary. But we have to parse it. Now, one thing I've thought of, just so you know, is I have not done any checking in here. So I've done no validations. In other words, what if I remove something from in here? What if I remove something and I left it empty? Well, I'm not supposed to do that. So I should go back and do the same kinds of things that I was doing before. In other words, that big thing of if statements that I did earlier, and I think now I probably have reproduced this, so I should go back and put this into its own routine and then just pass the control to it. All right, so validate that these aren't empty, then attempt to make sure we put in a number. All right, and if all that's true, sorry about that. I gotta let it ring through because it's a friend and I don't want to, okay, let's just go. All right. So let me come down here. I apologize for that. So before we do all this stuff, I'm going to do this. So I might get errors, but they'll be fixed in a minute. If it's not null, validate the first name. So these all have to be now update. Update first, update first, update last, update last. Update department name, update department name, update salary, update salary. I don't have a Boolean variable in here called result. I do now. So come in here and attempt to do that, do that, do that. If it's that, return. So I now should have in what I just put in here. What I think I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in the validator class. At least I might, I don't know, because there's so much code repetition in here. There's got to be a better way of doing it. I'm up near 500 lines now. So let me just keep going. So we've done all this. Attempt to perform the update. All right. So this will be a try. Again with a catch. All right. And let me just grab a bunch of the code that I put in here before in the last routine. Yeah, so I'm going to just grab all of this stuff in here. Again, there's a lot of repetitive code in here. Not good, but I'm more concerned right now with this working. Okay, so this is now update employee. As is this. Turn. Okay, that's all good. The other thing I want to do is steal again from the one we just did. And put the catch stuff in here, plus all of this. Let's put that in there. And then we'll grab the catch stuff. Now that I look at this, because of course I'm way too squirrely about this, is that this way up at the top here shouldn't, yeah, it is, show updated. Oh, I called it update employee. I should have called it updated employee, but that's fine. I'm going to leave it the way it is because I'm now up near 500 lines. Okay. Oh, it was updated. That's good. And we want to show our updated employee. Good. And the catch, I'm going to grab the catch from the last one and just modify it. So I'm going to grab all of this. Okay, I did it like that. So error attempting record update, error updating record. All right, that's all good. The only thing I have not done in here is the actual update. All right, so yes, you want to do it. Yes, so show updated. Yeah, okay, so now we want to actually do this. So perform update. So employee data dot employees dot update, and I want to update the updated employee and then save my changes. All right, and then I want to give them a message box that basically says this, even though I'm being very repetitive here. Alert user update made. Okay, I'm letting them know they were updated. With just buttons dot okay, and with message, the icon message box icon dot information. All right, now why is it giving me errors here? It's updated. Oh, well, no. That should be right. That should be right. Now, why is it giving me errors here? Son of a gun. I didn't put in a title. What did I put in before when I did this? Just successful update, I guess. I should fix that. Okay. Now let's run it. Like I said, I've had problems getting this update to work. Okay, so we'll see if it works or not. All right, we'll bring in our last one. First, oh, that's, what do you mean it cannot be empty? Good gravy. Somehow I lost, and it's not calling this first. So let's see. Oof. It's okay. No, I don't know why I'm getting that either, but let's see. For some reason, when I am changing what's in here, It should be calling fill in current employee to update, and that's not working. Those are all those ifs that I put in there. I think the problem is all these ifs that I put in, they're the right thing, but they're put in the wrong place. So I think where I'm validating all this stuff in here, first name, last name, etc. Yeah. This, I'm going to remove every bit of it. Whoa, where am I? Yeah, it's fill into update. Okay. It's all updated stuff. And all this, good gravy. Everything I put in here, this all, unless I'm wrong here. Yeah, fill in current employee to update. No, that is correct. So let's select it, index changed. Fill in current employee to update info. All right. I think the problem is attempt to update employee. That's all I'm doing in here. So all of that stuff that I was doing in here, all of that validation that I went repeated in here, that shouldn't be in here. That should all be in the try block that's in here. That's delete. That's under the add. That is correct. Where that is, I got to remove the right stuff from the right place. All right, this, all of this. There's the delete. There's the update. All right, this stuff. That should be. Again, I've got the right code, but I've got it the wrong places. So let me remove this. I am just about out of time here. So I'm going to clean this up. All right. It'll eventually get cleaned up. I'm not worried about it. It's the only problem I have in here right now is I've got should be just about fixed now. And again, we will fix it. All right. I'm going to stop right now. It is 12. All right, I'm going to stop. I've basically given you the code. I'm going to try to fix it up a little bit, for lack of better words. All right. And I might bring in a validator. I don't know. I'm going to work on it this afternoon, but I've been going for close to 4 hours and I am going to stop right now. All right. So hopefully you got something out of this, and I will be doing another video this weekend when I try to update my project, and I will talk to you at that time. So have a good afternoon.